Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 26 series, Rescue the Rockies. And spring training in 2037 is underway. Our main objective as we try to guide the Rockies to a fifth straight title is to get through the spring healthy and well. If that happens, not a lot of big questions as to who's going to make the 26-man roster. Think probably the biggest debate we have, barring injuries, is the last arm or two out of our bullpen. And if we want to get really creative, possibly a sixth infielder, but I think that's relatively set in stone unless we decide that we just want to keep a youngster like Johnny Castillo in the minors for another year, which I don't think I'm leaning towards doing. Before we get the episode started, I want to talk about the development lab. Trent Kaysen, as you know, already started an infield defense program a few days ago. 7 other players starting programs today. Johnny Castillo, the pitchers Bob Russell and Leo Martinez, and Beer Barrel Davia are working on infield defense programs. Outfield defense programs for Mike Castro and Kevin Five Tools Roberts. And then this is probably the one that will surprise some people. The young catcher, Elliot Bedford, we're going to have him working on his defense at catcher. Still think we ultimately need a longer-term answer at catcher, even with the trade we made for Mr. Lee this past offseason. Bedford right now is trending towards being, I think, either a very good backup catcher or kind of a meh starting catcher. But given that he does have durability, he does have the potential to have plus home run power. If we're able to get lucky over the next year or 2 or 3 in the development lab and perhaps make him more effective defensively than just being slightly above average, which is where he is now, might be able to turn him into somebody who could be a starter for us for a medium to long term. Don't necessarily think that's going to happen, but definitely going to invest a little bit in the third round pick in the development lab right now. And some of you who get more creative with the game than I do probably already realize this, but I had gotten the suggestion to perhaps do a second try through the development lab for the young outfielder Phil Dingwell or the catcher J.D. Lee, who we had tried in the development lab earlier this offseason. If you try to put a player through a second program, you've already attempted it once that offseason, so you don't get another chance. Makes sense kind of intuitively to me, but not something that I had ever really tried to do before. So just a heads up for those of you who haven't tried it before either and are thinking about it. It's not going to let you try that. And the early stages of spring training going well on the field for whatever that's worth. A 5-1-1 record for the Rockies. Johnny Castillo, who, as we talked about, fighting for a potential roster spot and a starting lineup spot if he makes the roster, since we're going to play one of our top prospects if he is on the 26-man, has a couple of home runs already. Nate Harris, who's likely to become a platoon catcher and is a right-hand hitter, be playing a lot less frequently than he has the past couple of years, primarily against left-handed pitching, has 6 ribbies as he's trying to hold off Mr. Lee in a battle to be our starting catcher. But realistically, not really much of a battle there. Lee's going to play against righties, Harris against lefties, unless we have some injury issues. Speaking of injury issues, perhaps not surprising, Jeff Colson, a 22-year-old former first-round pick who is fragile physically, going to be out with wrist soreness for a couple of weeks. Colson is one of the guys who, if he had a great spring and or we had some injuries, could be competing for a spot on the 26-man roster. Certainly missing the next couple of weeks is going to set him back a little bit as he tries to battle for a roster spot. And we continue to play well as we approach the midway point in spring training. 8-3-2 record. Kevin Roberts Jr., Mr. Five Tools, with 4 home runs now in the spring. Rich Hannon with a couple of saves. He's honestly, probably at this point, given the depth of our bullpen, more battling for a roster spot than to potentially be our closer. One piece of news, probably not surprising given that we haven't had great luck in the development lab defensively the last few seasons. Trent Kaysen not really making any progress in terms of his work in the development lab on his infield defense. Looks like the only one who's excelling is Beer Barrel Davia. Leo Martinez also on track. Everybody else frustrated at this point. But the 7 guys other than Kaysen are a couple of days behind in terms of us getting their mid-development lab report cards. And the mid-semester report cards are in, and exactly as expected. Martinez on track, improving his defense. Carlos Davia excelling, improving his infield defense, which is nice to see. A little more depth on what's going on. Wow, Davia is practically off the charts with how well he's doing with his infield defense, which is great to see for one of the better prospects in our organization. Martinez just barely successful at this point. Other than that, maybe Mike Castro or Elliot Bedford does a little better over the final few weeks and gets closer to actually improving a bit, but not looking like it's going to be a particularly fruitful journey through the development lab for most of our players here in this 2037 spring training. And as we get to the end of spring training, no improvement for last year's World Series MVP Trent Kaysen in his infield defense development program. Taking a look at our final standings, 17-8-3 records, so we definitely were good during spring training. Kevin Roberts Jr. just missed out on leading the league in ribbies. Rich Hannon tied for the league lead in saves, for whatever that information is worth. So now we get involved in making the difficult decisions to get down to the 26-man roster. Actually, probably not incredibly difficult for us this year because not a lot of significant injuries at this point. We know that Mike Girard's gone for the season, but we knew that heading in. That's a big part of the reason we traded for J.D. Lee. Only Jordan Rodriguez injured right now, not a serious injury. And the 27-year-old outfielder who we signed just a few weeks ago for some depth, not really a serious threat to make the roster anyways. As we look at the final 3 days of the other guys in the development lab, Davia continues to excel. Leo Martinez remains on track. Got 3 frustrated guys, and then unfortunately Mike Castro and Bob Russell both struggling right now. So hopefully at the very least they get to the point where they're only frustrated with the time that we've spent with them working on their defense over the spring. And we've made the decisions on the 13 pitchers who are going to be coming north with us. The final 3 cuts are all very high-end prospects. They'll all be beginning the season in AAA. 2 starters, Jeff Colson, the former first-round pick, and Kikaku Kawakami, former international free agent. Actually, not an international free agent, an international scouting find. And then Jake Lyon, the reliever who we picked in the second round just about 3 years ago in 2034, the final 3 cuts. Could certainly see all of those guys in the majors, depending on injuries and or ineffectiveness, or some of the guys at the periphery of our roster at this point. I don't think the rotation should be any surprise. Leo Martinez back as our number 1. Noah Schultz back as our number 2. The new addition, Bob Russell, will be our 3rd starter. Aaron Bell will slide down into the 4 hole. And Bernie Barrera back as our 5th starter. Adonis Valer will be back as our closer. Setup man, Justin Gibson, Josh Joss, and Chris Kennedy will also rotate Gibson and Kennedy into the stopper role from time to time. Josh will also be a middle reliever. He'll be joined there by Melvin Reyes and Rich Hannon. Melvin Reyes, one of the guys who did make the team over some of those other guys that we mentioned. Reyes, former international free agent signing from over 6 years ago now in 2031. 23 years old, was solid in AAA for us a year ago, and he didn't allow a run in the admittedly small sample size of 7 innings pitched in the majors at the end of last year. So Reyes makes the team as a middle reliever. David Guadron going to be our long reliever. This is another guy that was fighting with the likes of Colson, Kawakami, and Lyons for the roster. Guadron, first-round pick from a couple years ago in 2035. Didn't really have much to prove left in AAA. Was not particularly good when we called him up last year. We'll see what he can do as a lefty long reliever, and we'll also occasionally use him as a lefty specialist. And that's what Wellington Herrera, our former closer, is going to be at this point, focused on being a lefty specialist, although he'll also serve as a middle reliever for us. Could definitely be the last go-round, given some of the depth that we have in AAA for Herrera with this squad. But he does, along with Guadron and Valer, at least give us 3 lefties out of the pen. And we now have 2 in the rotation with the addition of Bob Russell. And we'll turn now to the 13 players that are going to come north with us. The final cut was Mike Green, the Rule 5 infielder that we picked up from the Twins. Thought he'd have a chance at making the roster if we had some injuries or if we wanted to keep Johnny Castillo down, but we don't want to do that. So every one of the 13 players on our team is going to be in the starting lineup at some point against righties or lefties. Against righties, going to lead off the rookie Mike Castro, play him in left field. New addition J.D. Lee will be our catcher and number 2 hitter. Ryan Stone, Kevin Roberts Jr., and Ted Miller, as usual, 3-4-5, playing first, right, and DH. The young second baseman Johnny Castillo will hit 6th. New addition infielder Elian Pena will give us another left-handed bat in the lineup and play shortstop for us. Dervy Mahez will play third against righties, and then Anthony Pack Jr., our center fielder and number 9 hitter. Against lefties, Ross Nile DePaula will play second base. Johnny Castillo will pivot over to first base. Mike Castro will hit number 3 and be our DH. Kevin Roberts, of course, the cleanup hitter. Phil Dingwell will play left and hit number 5. Trent Kaysen will play third base and hit 6. Dervy Mahez will pivot to shortstop against left-handers and bat 7th. Nate Harris in the platoon with Lee will hit 8th and catch for us. And then Anthony Pack Jr. will continue to play center field and be our number 9 hitter. So with the 26-man roster settled, all that's left to do is sim through the next few days, find out what happened in the development lab, and see exactly what the experts predict for our Rockies here in this 2037 season. And we've made it to opening day. As expected, only 2 positive results. No improvement from Elliot Bedford with defense, Kevin Roberts Jr. in the outfield, Bob Russell with defense, Mike Castro with defense, or Johnny Castillo with defense. Did get an outstanding result on Leo Martinez. Hold rating improved, and his infield arm and error rating both improved 5 points, as well as his turn 2 rating. His range improved a little bit, so not much we can be doing to improve Martinez, but we did improve his stamina a little bit this offseason. Hold runner rating and his pitching defense also better, so we'll certainly take that. And then Carlos Davila, big young prospect. His arm and his error and his double play rating all improved by 5 points. The range improved by a little less than that. So a good result for him. Certainly going to make him a more interesting outfielder or infielder for us down the line. He can also play outfield positions, but with the ability that he does have, certainly envision him as a starting infielder for us down the line. He's going to be turning 20 years old tomorrow. We're actually starting him still in High A in the Northwest League, which he handled very well last year. The expectation would be to promote him to Double A in relatively short order, but hopefully give him a smooth glide path into this season, and hopefully have him continue to hit really well, feel good about what he's doing at 19, soon to be 20, and get him up in Double A before too long. Certainly not completely inconceivable that he could be in Triple A before the end of the year. Taking a look at the preseason predictions, 490 win teams projected in the American League. The Orioles and Rays both 191 in the simulation here. Astros with 97, and the White Sox, who have made 4 straight World Series, losing to us each time, projected to win 103 games and once again be a big contender for another World Series appearance. Jose Estran of the White Sox expected to have another monster year unless they signed him over the last couple of months. He is still a potential free agent next year. Let's check in on that right now. They have signed him to an extension, so good move by the White Sox, locking up one of the best players in all of baseball, 8 years, $432.5 million. So the dream of perhaps being able to get Estran on the free agent market next year is done for us. So kudos to the White Sox for getting him locked up. Taking a look at the National League, and we are expected to be the only 90-win team in the NL. The Braves at 89 and the Cubs at 87 expected to be the other 2 division winners. But we had a great run through this simulation, winning 113 games. Kevin Roberts Jr. Looks to have a strong year for us once again, projected for 34 homers and 120 ribbies, 37 steals. So I think that would be his 4th 30-30 season in the past 5 years if he stays healthy and productive and is able to accomplish that. A bit of a drop-off from Sansao Samaro, who was your National League MVP a year ago. Still projected to have a very good year, 307 average, 27 homers, and 105 ribbies, but Samaro not as good as he was this past year. Pitching-wise, could have a real big year. Leo Martinez, who will be going for his 4th straight Cy Young Award, was 21-5 with an ERA in the mid-2s in this simulation. The new addition, Bob Russell, also expected to have a big year for us. I thought he might have had low adaptability, but if he did, it was something that was very borderline. But it could have been one of the other pitchers that we were looking at and considering trading for or signing as a free agent. But I'm sure some of you will remind me if that was the case. I was going to say I thought he had lower adaptability, so maybe his transition wouldn't be that good. But looks like at 16-7 with a 3.29 ERA. At least in this simulation, he had a great year for us. So it seems like it's not impossible that there could be a 5th straight World Series matchup between the Rockies and the White Sox, which is we sit here in 2025 in real baseball, getting ready to see who's going to be facing off against the Dodgers in the World Series. Pretty shocking to think that teams like the White Sox and the Rockies could be on top of the game in less than a decade, but that's the fun of simming through this fictional universe that we're playing in. And with that, we will call it an episode. Next time around, we will get the 2037 season underway as we see if we can hopefully position these Rockies for another long playoff run. Until our next episode, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.